Homo stupidus is the second most popular.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always done well. I'm not sure why.
Cave paintings, pet cloning, bringing animals back from extinction, and how sea turtles are affected by climate change. That's a pretty good description, to be fair.
Yeah, that is good.
That sounds like an exciting one.
Our most popular one is celestial dwarf.
Oh, wow, yeah, okay. A recent one.
Yeah, so it goes celestial dwarf, Homo stupidus, Homo reptilius. Maybe it's the Homo people like.
Oh, thank you.
How have you been? What have you been up to?
Oh, so many activities.
Really?
You know I like my life to be quiet. I love nothing more than sitting in bed with a good book and a takeaway.
Mm-hmm.
But last weekend, I climbed the Yorkshire Three Peaks.
Oh, yes, of course you did.
Yes, I did.
What are the Three Peaks? Just out of interest.
So they're called Pen y Ghent, which is 694 metres tall.
Mm-hmm.
Whernside, which is 736 metres tall.
Mm-hmm.
And Ingleborough, which is 723 metres tall.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what order did you tackle them? Is that the order you tackle them in?
No, we did it the reverse way. Ingleborough first, then Pen y Ghent, then Whernside.
Did you do the tallest one first, and then the second tallest, and the third tallest?
We thought we were doing the tallest one first. Obviously, there's not that much difference in height between them, really. But it turned out we did the tallest one last, which we thought was going to be the nice, easy one, but just lasted forever. We're just climbing and climbing and climbing. And then we got to the top, and you couldn't see anything because it was just so foggy, like the one bad weekend of the summer.
Mm.
My problem is, I don't think I've fallen over on mountains enough to be worried in the correct way. Because, I'm seriously anxious about falling down and rolling, off the mountain to my death. Even though people assure me that isn't what would happen, even if I fell down at a particularly steep part.
Has anybody ever died doing the Three Peaks challenge?
I don't feel like you're giving me the respect that I deserve. Not everybody completed the Three Peaks challenge when I was there. A quarter of the people couldn't make it up all three mountains. I really didn't want to, but I was kind of forced into it,
Yeah. Good experience, though, right? Good to say that you've done it.
Yeah, I guess so. I've got a nice couple of pictures.
I'll put them in the show notes.
Okay. What about you? What achievements do you have since the last episode?
Yesterday, I went to Tesco and I got my sandwich and I got my usually popcorn, salted popcorn, and I always feel bad about the amount of plastic that I'm buying, because I'm buying all this sparkling water, sometimes still water. I feel bad about it.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered, why doesn't somebody just put water in a can? And this is what I saw: canned water.
Right.
But the thing is, it's a pint, so it looks like a pint of beer, and it's got a resealable tab on the top, like a plastic tab. So you can just use the can as many times as you want. So now I've got 2 cans at work, and I have one in the fridge cooling and one at rotation at my desk, and then I just go through them. And then, now I'm reusing the cans, and also I'm using a much more recyclable vessel for drinks.
Oh, I don't know whether you've heard of this invention. It's called the glass. And then you can go to the tap and fill it up with water and just rinse it out as many times as you want and use it again.
But if I did that, I wouldn't be able to get a meal deal every day.
So you're going to get a new can every day, but then still reuse the old cans?
No, I'll probably replace... All right, no, this is a flaw in the logic, for sure. I just thought it was good. It was good because I hope to see canned water sold more widely, because it is so much better for the environment.
I think it's better for the sparkling.
It might be better for sparkling, but I don't even see that. I don't even see sparkling water in cans.
Why, you don't. Some people don't want to drink in a meal deal. Offer them a cheaper meal deal.
Yes, that's true. That would be a good idea.
That'd be a good way to cut down on plastic.
Yes. So it's £3 with the drink.
Yeah.
Or £2.50 without a drink.
There you go, Asda. You can have that.
Tesco for me.
Tesco. Sainsbury's for me, really. Asda, you can't have that, actually. Give that to the Sainsbury's next to me. So, evolution is a very slow process generally.
Yeah, it depends on the organism, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it depends on the organism, depends on the situation. But in general, catching evolution in the act is quite a difficult thing to do, yeah?
Not for things like bacteria.
Oh, not for things like bacteria, but...
We're not talking about them.
We're not talking about bacteria. Who cares about them in this context?
Yeah, for large multicellular life forms.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's hard to spot evolution occurring.
So some researchers have caught Anole lizards. You know Anole lizards?
I think they're anoles.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Should we do that again? The way that you laughed there made me think you're going to keep it in, but some researchers have caught Anole lizards in the Caribbean, like actually in action, evolving.
Okay.
These are on 2 islands in the Caribbean called Pine Cay and Water Cay. They were studying these Anole lizards before and after the impact of 2 hurricanes. So this was in 2017. There was Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Maria. And what they found was that there was a clear trend that after the hurricanes, the Anoles had bigger toe pads, longer forelimbs, and shorter hind limbs.
Okay.
And so obviously the researchers thought there must be some sort of a connection here, yeah?
Yeah.
And you can sort of think it through and think why it might be that these kind of lizards would have survived the hurricane better, yeah?
Yeah, like better gripping, I would think.
Yeah, exactly. So they live in like bushes and low vegetation, like loads of different lizards. The toe pads allow them to get purchase on the branches. So it sort of makes sense that the ones with the bigger toe pads have the most grip, the most friction, and so they can cling on better.
Yes, that definitely makes sense.
The thing about the legs is sort of harder to explain though, yeah? So why wouldn't it just be the ones with the 4 strongest legs that can grip onto things better, maybe?
This is what I was thinking. That was going to be my question.
And I'm going to answer you in video form, or you're going to get a video clue.
Okay.
Okay, so let me just send you the video. Obviously, this will be included in the show notes.
This will be in the show notes. And also, for those listeners who aren't able to just watch the video, maybe they're driving or something like that,
Yep.
I will just describe the video.
Okay.
All right.
I added the music into the background, so don't read too much into it.
Have you actually?
Yeah.
You've made this video?
No, I just took the music that was already in the background because there was someone talking in it and replaced it with some stock music.
Okay. I can already tell this is going to be a good video. And I love the music. Okay. All right, so I haven't played the video yet.
Okay.
I got a little clip of music, but I haven't played the video yet. So what I'm looking at as a first screenshot for our listeners is a lizard that's holding on to a stick.
Yeah, it's like a plastic rod.
It's holding on to a plastic rod with its forelimbs.
Mm-hmm.
And clearly this experiment involves blowing a severe gale force at the lizard as it tries to hold on to this stick.
Correct. You've correctly got the materials and methods. They used a leaf blower.
A leaf blower?
Yeah.
Poor little Anole. All right, okay.
But there is a net.
Okay, oh, good. So this Anole is holding on to this stick and a leaf blower is blowing in his face and he's going to eventually be thrown off into the net. Okay, right. I'll watch the video now. Oh my God.
Have you figured it out yet?
I've got maybe a suggestion.
Got a little hypothesis. That's good.
Yeah, so I can see that as I'm watching this, they're being blown away. Some of them are literally being blown off of the stick.
Yeah.
Some of them are sort of flailing their back legs in the wind. Others are using their legs to grip onto the stick. Okay, all right, I've got a hypothesis.
Okay, hypothesis time.
So because the gale or the hurricane is directed towards the lizard, I guess the larger surface area of the longer legs get caught by the wind and they're harder to sort of streamline, or they're harder to control back to the stump so that they can keep all four limbs attached.
Yep, that's basically right. Ding, ding, ding.
Way, okay, great.
So you can see, you described actually what the tactic that they use is. So they mainly, for the most part, they grip on with their forelimbs and just let their hind limbs dangle loose because they're not as strong or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so the ones with the shorter hind limbs have a smaller surface area for the wind to come up against. And so they're less likely to get blown off either in a hurricane to the deaths or with a leaf blower into the net.
Okay. So because throughout the course of the video, you see clearly several different anoles being blown by the leaf blower. The ones that don't manage to stick onto the stick they have longer hind limbs. Is that correct?
Well, none of them end up sticking onto the stick until the end. So it just the leaf blower gets turned up and up and up, and they measure how much wind it takes to blow one off.
I see. Okay.
You know, and also the streamlinedness of the body, which comes along with probably the shorter hind limbs. It might help.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see. Yeah. I'm watching again. Some of them are useless. Some of them are just straight away like, oh my God.
Well, yeah, it's cool because a lot of people thought that hurricanes were too destructive, like too indiscriminate in the way that they destroyed everything, for it to have like a directional impact on evolution.
Oh, really? Okay.
For things to have traits that are evolved as like a direct response to hurricanes, but because they went out into the wild before and after these hurricanes, and they literally found that the Anole lizards that were still around weren't dead, had all of these adaptations, which they've then confirmed in the lab with the leaf blower, really are adaptations to withstand strong winds, to keep good grips. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a really cool little study, the first of its kind in hurricanes specifically, anyway.
So our understanding before was that hurricanes were so destructive. And
so in, you know, maybe not infrequent, but like we might have thought that this kind of thing happened, but we had no concrete examples. And now this is the first concrete example.
I think it's really good that these guys noticed that the leg size of these lizards was shorter. Because, yeah. I mean, like, how many things do you think we miss after events like this? They must have been really studying these anoles.
Oh, yeah, Anole lizards are really famous model organisms in evolution.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They are very cool, Anoles. I think some of them have like these elaborate throat pouches that they inflate to attract females and scare off would-be suitors.
Well, you can't scare off a hurricane.
No, that's true. But you can survive if you've got shorter little back legs. Okay, so it wouldn't be an episode of Generic Drift without one of my sections blasting off into outer space. But this time we're staying slightly closer to home. What do you know about the moon?
It's made of cheese.
Yeah, it is. And that was my fact. So section over.
Oh, okay, brilliant. Okay, what do I know about the moon? It's a natural satellite.
Mm-hmm, that's right. It's the Earth's only natural satellite.
I didn't want to say that, you know, because I thought you'd say that's been disproved or something.
I think maybe that we do have some small ones.
Yeah.
So maybe we've got some very tiny moons, but I don't think they really count.
It controls the tides.
Yes, it does control the tides, obviously with its huge gravitational pull. Okay, well, I'll give you some cool facts about the moon.
Okay.
So essentially, you're right, it's a natural satellite in orbit around Earth. It's the Earth's only natural satellite. It's pretty barren. It's, you know, covered in craters. and it doesn't have an atmosphere or anything like that. So it's fairly desolate, the moon. Some cool facts about it. It's the 5th largest moon in our solar system.
Oh, nice.
After... Go on. Guess. See if you can guess any other moons that are bigger than it.
Titan.
Titan is the 2nd largest.
Io.
Io is the 4th largest. Yeah, you're right. Got 2 more.
Ooh. No, I can't think of any more moons.
The biggest moon by quite some margin is Ganymede.
Never heard of that.
That's one of Jupiter's moons.
Okay.
So it's Ganymede of Jupiter, Titan of Saturn, Callisto of Jupiter, and Io of Jupiter.
So, for the size of us, we're doing pretty well moon-wise.
Absolutely, which is quite an interesting fact, actually, and directly related to what I want to talk about.
Excellent.
Another couple of cool things that are, a couple of things that are cool about the moon. So it's in synchronous rotation with Earth, meaning we only ever see one hemisphere. We only ever see one face. And this is due to a process called tidal locking, where the gravitational pull of one large body, or Earth, causes a smaller body to become locked. And the moon is actually exerting this force on the Earth as well, causing our planet to slow down by 15 microseconds every year, which over time has turned a 6-hour Earth day to the 24 hours that we all know and love.
Wow.
Yeah, amazing, isn't
that
it?
is really cool, yeah.
So early in the Earth's formation or whatever, it would spin so fast that we would have 6-hour days. And in fact, I think when you go back and look at corals, like early evolution of corals, you can cut them open like you can with trees and count the rings, because they have growth rates depending on what season it is. And you can count how many rings there are in a year. And you can see that Earth used to have more days because the days were much quicker.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And I think that we used to have like 22-hour days or something when corals were evolving. But anyway, yeah. So my favourite fact is that the sun is around 400 times larger than the moon. But it also happens to be 400 times farther away, which is an amazing coincidence, and the reason that the moon is able to completely obscure the sun during a total solar eclipse.
Well, you say coincidence, I say intelligent creator.
You don't say that. I know you don't say that.
I mean, I don't, but I do think, it's fuel for the fire.
That's true. But nowhere else in our solar system is this actually the case. So it is actually a huge coincidence that we have that eclipse event where the moon completely blocks out the sun. That's incredibly rare. So there's some cool facts. Now, I know we talked about the formation of Pluto in episode 9, which was quite interesting, yeah?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it turns out we got a pretty good idea of how our moon formed. Do you know? Do you have any ideas? Do you want to take a guess?
Is it, okay, this might be completely wrong, but did an asteroid or something like an asteroid hit Earth and a bit of Earth break off and then is just like floating around and it's been smoothed by,
Gravity.
Gravity.
That's a really good guess. Yeah. And in fact, that's the way that I thought it happened.
Okay.
And until I sort of read into this week. And what you're talking about is a theory called the giant impact hypothesis. Mm-hmm. But there's a couple of key differences. So let me take you back 4.5 billion years when our sun was just a mere 100 million years old, a really, really young sun.
A baby, yeah.
So the solar system was a really violent place. It was full of bodies that no longer exist. For example, perhaps there were no rings around Saturn, but instead a series of moons set to one day collide and form one of the most iconic visible features of our solar systems, the rings of Saturn. Back in this early period of the solar system, Earth was radically different to how it is today. So we're talking magma oceans, constant bombardment by meteorites, some of which would have delivered water to the planet. Mm-hmm. And that's how we've got all of our water today. So this Earth was so unlike what we know today that scientists don't even call it Earth, but they call it Gaia, which is named after the Greek primordial deity that personified Earth. And she was the mother of Uranus, who is the sky. I told you I was reading up on my Greek mythology, didn't I? Yeah,
I've heard stories. I've heard the name Gaia before, but I think in a different context.
Yeah, well, Gaia is where we get the word, the prefix geo, So for geography and geology of the earth, it's that we get it from Gaia. And also the name George, which means farmer or agricultural worker. That's where we get the geo from for that.
That's not very romantic.
It's a cool fact though. My brother's called George and he listens to the podcast. So thanks, George.
Hi, George.
So quite importantly, Gaia wasn't the only planetary body within our vicinity. There was also a Mars-sized body called Theia, who in Greek mythology was a titaness and the mother of Selene. And Selene, the Romans referred to as lunar. So Theia was the mother of Luna. So you might see where this is going.
Yeah.
So at some point, 4.5 billion years ago, Gaia and Theia violently collided, sending vaporized chunks of crust and mantle into space. And essentially, Gaia obliterated Theia, with part of the planet mixing with what we now call Earth, while the other part coalesced in orbit. And over time, gravity pulled the fragments and debris from this collision together, forming our glorious moon.
Do we know which part?
What do you mean?
I mean, do we know which part of current Earth is past there? Like, is it a certain plate or something like that?
Oh, God. Do you know what? I think it was so long ago, 4.5 billion years. It would have been so unrecognizable. I don't even think the plates would have been the same shape or anything like that. I don't even know if the plates existed. It was like magma ocean and crust was so different and the mantle was so different. So I don't think we do know what part of Gaia Theia hit. But it's a good question. It would be really cool to find evidence of it, you know.
Yeah.
But it happened so long ago that, like, the planet that we occupy isn't Gaia, it's Earth, which is a mix of Gaia and Theia. Or Theia. Weird.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking, like, the moon is quite different.
From us?
Is like the rock of the moon quite different to what you find on Earth?
The stable isotope ratios of both the moon and Earth rock are absolutely identical.
Oh, okay, so they're not that different then.
So in terms of composition, around 60% of the moon should be from Theia, while 40% is from Gaia. Although lunar rock samples haven't been able to corroborate that. But that's, like, according to the models that we've made, that's how much we suspect is in the moon.
Well, they want to go round looking on the dark side.
Yeah, although that's a myth as well. There is no dark side of the moon. It all sees light. It's just we never see that side of the moon. So it's not a dark side.
Of course.
It's just the other side of the moon. Yeah. So anyway, I've got a little animation to help you visualize the collision, which I think really helps.
Okay.
And I will send this to you and include it in the show notes. So in the animation, you have the black planet, which is Theia, and the blue planet is Gaia, orbiting around the sun. And you can see how Theia smashes into the Earth, and then you can see that over time that turns into the moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's cool. Okay, so that's where the moon came from. Came from a sister planet that that the primitive Earth destroyed, absorbed.
Yeah, no, we did absorb it. Fused with it. Essentially, our core fused with it. So there are a few theories as to how the Earth formed, but this is the leading one. This is by and large the one that most people believe. And there are a few sort of reasons that we do believe this theory. One is that Earth has a much larger core than expected for its size. And this is clearly because some of it has come from Theia.
Okay, yeah.
So the moon, in comparison, has a really small core. Maybe because most of it is here on Earth.
Okay, yeah.
Moon samples show that it once had a molten surface, which is what Earth would have had. And also obviously the stable isotope ratios as well.
Yeah.
Now, Mercury and Venus, the two planets that are closer to the sun, neither of them have moons. Even Mars, I believe Mars' moons are trapped asteroids. So it seems like a little bit suspicious that the proper moons that we observe in our solar system are all attracted around the big boys, the gas giants and the ice giants, who, are huge gravity sinks compared to us. Now, I might be wrong there. Like, we might observe moons around planets like ours in other star systems.
Even Pluto's got moons.
But Pluto isn't a planet.
Yeah.
Pluto isn't a planet.
Smaller than a planet.
Yeah, exactly. That, and the fact that it's so small and hasn't cleared its vicinity.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, of course.
So that's like my thinking is that it's really odd that Venus doesn't have a moon as well. Because Venus was clearly, it's about the same size as Earth. It's quite close to the sun. But also quite similar distance to us, relatively speaking, in the solar system. And yet it hasn't got one, but we do. I don't know, that seems a bit suspicious to me. It seems like, there probably was a big collision with a body that formed, and so when you look out at the moon at night, you're looking at a piece of Gaia and Theia, two ancient planets fused together. It's amazing.
Well, even just when you look down at the ground, you are.
Yeah, that's true as well, yeah. Anyway, do you like that story?
Yeah, I do like that. I had no idea about this Gaia and Theia thing. I've never even heard of it. Like, I'm going to be reading up on that.
It's really interesting. It's definitely worth, I don't think I could do the theory justice. It brings me on to the point of this section. And I love a long introduction. I like to set the scene. But there you go. So as I say, this giant collision occurred around 4.5 billion years ago. Now, you should know that predates life on Earth, which we estimate at the very earliest began around 4.2 billion years ago. Mm-hmm. Although it's likely a lot later than that, more like 3.8 billion, but very earliest 4.2. So conditions were clearly eventually perfect for life on Earth. Why not the moon?
Is this a question or is this rhetorical?
Yeah, what do you think? Why couldn't the moon host life?
No atmosphere.
Well, actually it did have an atmosphere.
How long for?
Well, okay, right. So there's been a new paper in the journal Astrobiology titled...
Favourite?
Yeah, exactly. Well, we like the International Journal of Astrobiology. Oh, is this a different
one? Okay.
This is a competitor. Although I don't know which one I prefer, to be honest. It's just the International got there first.
Yeah.
Anyway, this paper's called Was There an Early Habitability Window for Earth's Moon? And it could be possible that it once played host to life. So according to the researchers, it's almost certain that the moon would have retained some water when it formed.
Yeah, that sounds fair enough.
And along with the water, some of the chemistry that created life on Earth too. Today, there are hundreds of millions of metric tons of water on the moon, all frozen as ice. Mm-hmm. So the magma oceans on the early surface of the moon would have spewed out vast quantities of what the researchers call volatiles, including water vapor, which would have formed pools and also an atmosphere.
Yeah.
And there's also been evidence in other studies that have shown that the moon would have had a magnetic field, which would have protected the atmosphere. That's what our magnetic field does for us. Otherwise, it would be stripped away by solar winds, and that seems to have happened to the moon. So the astrobiologists conclude that there may well have been a window, or at least actually two windows, and the first one would have been 4.5 billion years ago.
Yep.
If it did 4.5 billion years ago, then that would have been like life forming on the moon, just as it formed here on Earth. Because conditions on the moon were very similar to conditions on Earth. We could definitely see life forming on the moon. Mm-hmm. Now, the second window happens a little later, around 3.5 to 3.8 billion years ago, when there was already life on Earth, and we had, is it cyanobacteria?
Cyanobacteria, yeah.
Cyanobacteria. So when cyanobacteria was thriving on Earth, there was still a lot of violent collisions in our solar system, and many giant meteorites were apparently being flung around from body to body. And it's possible that a meteorite collided with Earth, transporting some bacteria to the moon when it smashed off of its surface.
Okay.
So in this scenario, life originated on Earth, but was transferred to the moon. And the researchers actually seem to think that this is the more likely scenario.
But it's all about the evidence.
Of course.
And how are we going to find any evidence of just cyanobacteria from 3.5 billion years ago on the moon?
No, that's true. Although there are fossilized cyanobacteria fossils in rock from that age that we found here on Earth. I bet it's a lot harder to find it on the moon, though. Especially if it's not there.
Yeah, what conditions promote good fossilization, actually? Or freezing, actually, maybe, when it lost its atmosphere.
Yeah.
Maybe they could be preserved in the ice that's still there.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So in terms of next steps, the researchers want to collect some rock samples from the moon to look for like this ancient water and life.
Mm-hmm.
But they also want to conduct some experiments in what they call moon simulation chambers to see whether cyanobacteria and other microorganisms could survive under the early moon conditions. And apparently this could occur in both Earth laboratories as well as the ones on the International Space Station. What do you think of that?
Yeah, but the bacteria we've got now probably aren't that much, necessarily that much like the ones in the primordial Earth.
Do you think so?
I don't know.
I don't know whether they've changed too much. I know bacteria evolve really fast, but I don't know if they've changed.
I mean, we're talking about before there was oxygen, aren't we? Like, largely before there was oxygen, before there was an atmosphere of oxygen.
But could you set conditions to early?
Yeah, of course you could. But what I'm saying is that the ones that are around now are around with an oxygen-rich atmosphere. I guess not in certain places, though, like deep sea vents and things.
Or you take a sample of the bacteria that are around now, and then you put them under conditions of what life would have been like on Earth or whatever, all that time ago. Let them evolve to that, and then put them in the conditions of the moon. So you cultivate your own.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they already are. Like,
yeah,
sure they've got to be selectively generating things backwards so that they can try and answer questions about them.
That's true.
These molecular types. I'd like to talk to you about the national obesity crisis.
Okay.
Well, actually, I guess it's not just the national obesity crisis, is it? I guess it's,
the international obesity crisis.
International obesity crisis distributed around the world in developed countries.
Mm-hmm.
What causes obesity?
Lack of exercise, a poor diet. Also, diseases can as well. Things like, I don't know, diabetes. Or does obesity cause diabetes?
Well, that's the age-old question, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
you're more susceptible to diabetes because you've got obesity, but diabetes also causes obesity.
Also lifestyles, right? Like our lifestyles nowadays. Since moving to London, I've put on so much weight because all I do 5 days a week is sit in front of a computer all day, and I don't have much time to go to the gym, or I do, but I don't spend my time going to the gym. And
you're not climbing mountains like me.
No, I'm not. I would like to. I would really like to, actually. I would love to do stuff like that. And that is the sort of exercise that I really like. And I like tennis and squash and stuff. But I don't know, like working out at the gym, just not really my thing at all.
Yeah, not my kind of thing either. So I think you've covered the main causes. We're eating more food, we're eating worse food, we're moving less, burning less calories.
Yep.
What if I was to tell you that obesity might be contagious?
Contagious?
Contagious.
I could believe that in a way. I guess it would depend on the definition of contagious. I don't know whether just being around a random obese person would transfer obesity to you, but I do think that culturally, as more people get obese,
yeah, I see what you mean, like a domino effect,
yeah, exactly.
Like around, you see people around you, and the cultural norm of what is overweight and what isn't changes.
Yeah, and also on top of that, obese people having kids, then growing up with the same lifestyles as their obese parents.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm not talking about it in the sort of general way that you're talking about. I'm talking about literal contagious.
Really? Okay.
So back in the 1980s, a guy called Mikhail Durandar,
nice name,
heard about this virus that was affecting chickens in India and making them get fat.
Yeah.
And so it was subsequently tested in different animals, and they found in mice and monkeys that a close relative of this virus from the chickens, called adenovirus 36, makes them put on weight as well. And then they did some Petri dish experiments and infected the fat cells with this adenovirus 36, and it made the individual cells store more fat. So this looks like a promising angle for obesity research, right? We've got to look into this in humans. But we can't just go around giving people a virus that might make them obese. That'd be inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also has other side effects in humans, like diarrhea and, you know, nasty stuff.
Oh, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Stem cell then. Stem cell it.
Well, or you can look for the antibodies.
What do you mean?
You can look for evidence that people have already had the virus, and look to see whether they were overweight or obese. And this is exactly what these scientists did. So
they've seen it in chickens.
Yeah.
And then they've just hypothesized perhaps this is happening in humans as well.
So they've seen it in chickens, they've induced it in mice and monkeys, and then they've also got this cellular mechanism for how it works as well. And so then they went out and tested for antibodies in humans of differing weight classes, overweight, obese. I don't know what the word you're supposed to use now is. Healthy. Is that okay?
Yeah. I guess so, yeah. Obesity, yeah, healthy weight.
Okay, I'm going to call them non-obese.
Okay.
So 5% of the non-obese had these adenovirus antibodies.
Mm-hmm.
And 30% of the obese people had them.
Okay.
So, wait a second. I'm not that convinced by that. 5% to 30%. It sounds to me like there's a lot of variation there. And like we said with the diabetes thing, you've got to remember that sometimes being obese itself can make you more susceptible to diseases, yeah?
Yes.
So that's what scientists basically said when they came out with these results. So they've tried a new tack now, which is instead of looking for the antibodies, which provide evidence that the virus has been there in the past, they look for active viral DNA in people who are going in for other treatments to the doctors. They do biopsies, yeah?
Uh-huh.
In 19% of the healthy weight people, they found the adenovirus DNA, compared to in obese people, they found it 81% of the time.
Wow, okay.
So that's fairly extraordinary, right?
Yeah, that's pretty damning.
Yeah. I mean, again, as I say, like there's this argument that it could be the other way around. You become obese and you're more likely to get infected with it. But I think all of the lines of evidence, the animal studies, the cellular studies, and then this demographic sort of study finding it in people who are overweight is like quite a good body of evidence, yeah?
Yeah, an obese body of evidence.
It's an obese body of evidence. And in fact, they've actually developed a vaccine for this adenovirus 36 in mice that was successful at stopping them putting on weight.
No way.
Yes, way. So all this time, we've been thinking we're becoming more lazy and just eating worse. Maybe it's just been that we've been infected.
Wow.
It's those viruses, those pesky viruses.
Nobody ever stops to think, is it a virus? I don't think.
No.
Unless you are obese, maybe.
Well, I know even then people say, oh yeah, it's genetic, I get my big bones from my father or whatever.
Yeah.
And talking about the different genetic elements. But of course, viruses can insert into the host genome.
So what percentage of obese people was it that looked like they were infected?
81.
81%. If 81% of obese people are over... there's a lot of questions here.
Mm-hmm.
Because could this disease also make you eat more?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Not that I've read, but even if it does, like, curing the disease is still curing obesity, whether the mechanism of the disease is it just makes you store more fat like it was in the cellular studies, like it just absorbs more fat into the cells, or if the mechanism is something more behavioral where it makes you eat more, like cure the virus, potentially cure obesity.
Wow. Like I was going to say, literally everybody thinks that obesity is due to eating bad food, lack of exercise. There must be a relationship there. That's clearly not up for debate.
Yeah, I mean, the results are still kind of controversial, obviously. Like, a lot of people are just unwilling to believe that a virus could have caused obesity. But I don't know, like, I don't need that much more convincing.
No, the fact that in this study, 81% of obese people appeared to be infected with a virus compared to just a handful of non-obese people.
Well, 19%, still quite a few, but obviously, like, it might still not. There's intraspecific variation in the way that a human's body would respond to a virus, even, yeah? So that, you know, just because you get infected with it, it doesn't mean maybe that it'll be able to cause the same effects in you or me as it would a person who might become obese.
Yeah, that is crazy. And also, like, really good news.
Really good news,
because if you can cure obesity with a vaccine, I mean, number one, you'd be one of the richest people on earth.
Yeah, true.
So this research, even if it's just setting up or teeing up pharmaceutical companies to go after this vaccine.
But when you think about how much obesity-related diseases and problems cost the NHS,
yeah,
I mean, if a vaccine is a one-time thing,
this vaccine would be so overpriced.
Yeah,
it would. I know pharmaceutical companies, and I know that they would do that, and know that they would make it the most expensive vaccine on the market. But after like 7 years, they go generic, and then you can just any old person can make it if they want. So
yeah, maybe we should go into it.
The generic drift vaccines.
Generic drift weight loss vaccines.
I would love to have a vaccine to make me lose weight. That would literally be.
Well, we don't know whether you've got the virus yet, Harvey. Let's not jump to conclusions.
I want to get tested. I want to find out I've got this virus and I want the vaccine.
Yeah. I mean, it's also at the moment a mouse vaccine, so be careful.
Well, I don't care. I'm convinced I've got the virus.
We should find somewhere that can test you.
That would be amazing. I'm also convinced you don't have the virus because you're skinny.
Yeah, but I was used to be fat.
Yeah.
Maybe I've beaten the virus.
You've got the antibodies. I need some of your blood.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Sure. We'll do that Blood Brothers thing.
Okay.
That's perfect. And then we'll write into Nature and be like,
look how skinny Harvey's got.
Harvey lost 4 stone in 6 months thanks to my blood.
Yeah.
Just go round to Weight Watchers with a knife and share.
Yeah, and be like, yeah, we could. Right. Step off the scales, come over here and have some of this.
Yeah, perfect.
That's disgusting.
We'd be national heroes.
Yeah, or we might create a new HIV epidemic.
Yeah, true. But that's also a virus.
That's true. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Not really relevant, but yeah, you're right.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's really good.
Okay.
That's really good. And also, it gives me an opportunity to make the frog really fat.